Welcome to
Grosvenor Park United Church
Sunday worship service.
Welcome to Grosvenor Park United Church.
Welcome. I'm Diane Phillips, Grosvenor Park United Church's Congregational leader for today. On behalf of myself, our minister, the Reverend Wahkohtowin, and our congregation, welcome to the recorded portion of Sunday worship for September 26th. Please note that on Sunday mornings at 10:30, we also have a Zoom time for the prayers of the people and coffee hour. The meeting number and ID number are available from the church office or found in the leaflet, our weekly information offering. And now for the passing of the peace. Wahkohtowin, Waki Qiwebis, Wetaskiwin. God calls us to live in peace. Two-spirit, LGBTQQIA+ and ally, seeking reconciliation as Treaty 6 people as we gather on Treaty 6 land and the traditional homeland of the Metis, also recognizing the non-Treaty Dakota First Nations and the La Prairie Ronde Metis who were instrumental in the building of Saskatoon. Being grateful people, striving to live in harmony with all of creation, the peace of Christ be with us all. Welcome to worship.
Sisters, let us walk together, sharing sadness, loss, and grief. We will move through pain to wholeness, brokenness transformed to peace. Brothers, let us walk together, seeking justice, healing shame, filled with hope, imbued with courage. Every violence we will name. People, let us love together, joining spirits, linking hands. We are God's unique creation, clothed with dignity we'll stand.
Hi, I'm Rosie, and I'm Metis. Most of my friends don't know what that means. Here's what I tell them. The Metis people started when a bunch of guys called the Voyageurs came here to the prairies to work the fur trade. Along the way, they met the First Nation people who had lived here for thousands of years. They helped the Voyageurs in their travels. Sometimes the Voyageurs even married some of the First Nation women. Their babies were a mix of both cultures. By the way, do you know where babies come from? I do. As the little babies grew up, they found it hard to fit in. They weren't exactly like their mom or their dad. And do you know what they called themselves? Métis, which means mixed. These were the founders, the first official generation of the Métis people. The generation of my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. That's 7 generations leading to me. Not all of them were happy to be Métis. Actually, it's kind of been a roller coaster ride. So the founders had babies. These babies grew up to be the proud generation. They grew up really happy to be Métis. Sadly, after many years of fighting for the right, Louis Riel and the Métis were defeated at the Battle of Etoche. So many things they worked so hard to build were burned to the ground. That made their babies the defeated generation. They had seen their parents, the proud generation, lose the fight. Even though they loved being Métis, they stayed pretty quiet about it. Their babies grew up in a world where being Métis was a really bad thing. They were the shamed generation. Everywhere they went, people said mean things just because they were Métis. Not fair. And that's why the shamed generation raised their babies to hide their Métis heritage. And this hidden generation got very good at hiding. Where are you guys? And guess what? They didn't even tell their babies who they were. Crazy! Mom, are you hiding anything from me? These babies are what I call the lost generation. Many of these guys didn't even know they were Métis. But thankfully, to my mom's generation, born as lost became the found. With some digging and excellent detective work, the found generation found out who we were again. Thanks, Mom. For the first time in a long time, many Métis kids are growing up proud to be Métis from day one. I love to play in the snow, do the jig. Someday my mom will teach me to be. Check out these moccasins my mom made me. So what's the lesson here? Knowing who we are and why we're proud of it makes us happy people. Happy people are nice to each other. And when we're nice to each other, only good things can happen. So that's the story of the Métis people. Next time I'll tell you where babies come from. It's really weird.
Today's reading will be from the book of Esther, chapter 7, verses 1 through 6 and 9 through 10, as well as chapter 9, verses 20 through 22. Azarus and Haman arrived at Esther's banquet. The next day, as they were drinking their wine, Azarus said, "What do you desire, Esther? Anything you say will be given to you." Esther replied, "My sovereign, if I have found favor in your eyes, and if it be your wish, I ask you to spare my life and the lives of my people. That is what I desire most. For we, my people and I, have been condemned to be destroyed, slain, and turned into chattel, ourselves and our children. Had you merely intended to make us slaves, I would have said nothing. All this has been told to me by a reliable source. Our enemy brings shame upon the imperial court." Azarus said, "Who is this person who would dare do such a thing?" Esther replied, "Our enemy is this scoundrel, Haman." Haman was terrified and shrank in the presence of Azarus and Esther. Then Harbona, one of the eunuchs, said, "I've seen it myself. Haman has prepared a gallows for Mordecai, the very person who gave you true information. The gallows stands in front of Haman's house and is 75 feet high." Azarus declared that is where Haman will hang, so Haman was hung on the gallows that he had built for Mordecai. Only then was Azarus' anger abated. Mordecai wrote down all these things in a scroll and sent copies to all the Jewish communities throughout the empire of Azarus, both far and near, telling them that they should keep the 14th and 15th day of Adar, the days that they vanquished their enemies. They were to commemorate the entire month of Adar, for it was in that month that when their lot had been changed from sorrow to joy. They were told to observe these days with celebrations and feasts, giving gifts of food to friends and to the poor. Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. Thanks be to God.
Hi, my name is Allison Forsberg. I'm Yelling Tony.
And I am 18 years old, and I am the founder of the Bring Them Home event.
And then I'm 20 years old, and I just finished the Moccasins for Remembrance cycling tour.
So currently we are planning to share with Grosvenor Park United Church a little bit about our activism and our journey throughout reconciliation in Canada.
I'm not Indigenous myself, and I really, this summer, I wanted to do something to really go out there and give recognition to the genocide that happened in Canada, and to start to move and be actively involved in reconciliation. It's all about using your platform, and it's all about reaching out there and just using what you're good at.
My platform was activism. Growing up, I've had the hardships of an Indigenous person. I recognize that, but I'm also very insightful that I'm privileged compared to my other Indigenous peers.
I'm a cyclist. I've always been a cyclist, so that was a journey that made sense to me, to be actively involved in reconciliation. And this can take so many different forms. Like, you organized the Cancel Canada Day event,
yeah,
and did things like that. For me, I was just riding my bike and trying to connect with these communities and really listen to what they needed.
Big events that have an impact on so many people, that allow that space to be vulnerable with each other. It's really amazing. For my Bring Them Home event, I connected with a youth nonprofit organization called Chokecherry Studios. They helped me in finding youth who had the same goals as me also, and that's where I found a lot of my support.
So I came up with an idea of cycling to every federally recognized residential school in Saskatchewan, to pay homage to these places. And I came to Allison with this idea in hopes that we could make something that I could take with me to deliver to these locations. So Allison here connected me to Chokecherry Studios, and we came up with the idea of making small infant moccasins. And so the two of us ran a workshop using a grant from the Rising Youth, and we were able to bring 20 people, 20 youth in to build these small infant moccasins and have a knowledge keeper to teach us how. And we made one pair for every federally recognized residential school. So my journey started on the 2nd of August, just over 3,000 kilometers, and it took me 24 days to complete my journey. And I cycled out to deliver these, and my journey had three main goals.
One of the main goals was to raise money for the Orange Shirt Society. So they are supporting residential school survivors in that healing. The second pillar of the goal was to tell the story of the survivors. Be an active listener to those people who are hurting is, and always was, super important when we were building this project from the start.
One of the first places I visited was George Gordon First Nation, just north of Regina, and there they had a residential school that lasted quite long there, and a knowledge keeper met me at the site. He was a residential school survivor from that site there, and he took me to this teepee, and this teepee, on it was depicted the struggle of Indigenous people through colonization, and it was painted in a circle. You start at the door. It was yellow, which means new beginnings. And from there, there's a depiction of Indigenous people, and they're walking over these hills, these challenges, and they're very proud. And then it shows through colonization how that identity was stripped from them. They lose their regalia, they lose these things, and then on the other side, they start to rebuild that. And he's sharing with me that that's the part of the journey we're in right now. We need to find that truth and for the broad public to understand what happened, that we can create empathy. And empathy is that first building stone to facilitating healing, knowing what is needed to help move forward. And then the journey continues around the door where the people are back and they're walking, they're upright. But their regalia has changed slightly, because the idea that through that colonization, there has been things that have been lost forever, unfortunately. But we need to be here to facilitate that healing, and so they can bring them back to that feeling of confidence in their culture and acceptance of that culture.
We also want to connect with communities and celebrate Indigenous culture. So throughout Byung's journey, he got to meet many nations across Saskatchewan.
And that's why one of our pillars was to really celebrate Indigenous culture here in Canada, because I think that's something that's really lacking. We have all these different nations. There's 74 recognized nations just here in Saskatchewan alone, and these are all sovereign nations. They all have different languages, they have different cultures, different traditions, and these are things that need to be celebrated. And we should see it all around us. It should be part of Saskatchewan, part of Canada, is that rich history and culture of Indigenous people. I was able to experience that, and it was very, very moving to be able to go to these communities and listen to their song, to watch powwow, all these things that really afterwards I was shocked that I never knew about. It was never part of my life here, despite the fact that we have 74 nations just here in Saskatchewan. And that journey for me was impacted me so much, and I learned so much about the true history in Canada and the struggles that Indigenous people face daily because of the residential school system. And I was fortunate enough and lucky to be gifted with many stories of these residential schools to help me in my learning process. Beforehand, we reached out and contacted these nations to ask permission.
So yeah, I feel like it was super important to give that recognition, especially Indigenous culture. I feel like having that consultation from all the nations and not just consulting with one has been a super important step into making sure we go about the process in the correct way.
Especially as non-Indigenous people,
yeah.
I think I don't find I did anything special, and I was very fortunate in that these nations are so accepting and so inclusive to bring me in and to share with me and to help me learn on my journey, and to have some sort of transaction where I would come to give the moccasins and to learn from my journey in reconciliation, but to also to be there to listen and to share the stories that they want the world to hear. It's so important that we take that ally role, mm-hmm. and really begin to facilitate the healing journey, because that's really what is on non-Indigenous people now, is that we need to be here to support that, and to do it in many different ways.
As for youth and stuff, knowing that someone who's 20 years old and someone who's 18 years old.
And using our personal platforms. Yeah.
So just a reminder to youth out there, we want to say that even though you may feel like you're young and often silenced by people who may feel like they know more than you, it's important to take those steps of providing yourself insight that we are so much more capable than what we've been shown. And we hope to do more in the future. So.
I would like to thank Grosvenor Park United Church for reaching out to us and asking us to share with you a little bit of our journey and our active reconciliation.
Yes.
And I thank you all for coming here and listening today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. It's kind of mind blowing. Oh, we should do a proper exit, you know what I mean? Not like a... That's nice.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. 6 minutes. You can definitely keep chatting.
Just add some more stuff, I'll edit it.
Okay, we're good. We definitely don't want it to sound kind of too full of ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
So
we can
that
just
idea...
talk more about the other organizations.
For sure.
Stuff.
Métis Nation. No, that's not the way around. We'll try that again. Okay. So, why is there like a... Oh, that's just like a... Here, we'll go back to where we're standing so we don't change position. And be like... how we want to do it.
You tell me.
Alright.
As we light these candles, we offer our silent prayers. Prayers of gratitude, prayers of thanksgiving, prayers of wonder, prayers of concern.
And now for the prayer of Jesus. Our Father, Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.